Hi there, welcome back to On the Flip Side. My name is Adam Shawwalker, your host, and today we're going to be checking out this new studio album, The Harvest, by psychedelic sludge metal outfit Mammoth Weed Wizard Bastard. This is the fourth full-length release from these guys, and the first since officially shortening their name to MWWB, which to me doesn't really roll off the tongue all that well, so I'll still probably be using the full-length name. These guys came onto my radar in about 2016, maybe 2017, with the release of their second album, E Profit Dwill, which seemed like a condensed offering of all of the best styles of classic doom and sludge metal packed into a neat and tidy 6-song album. And while that album was a great showcase of classic doom elements with some modern embellishments, it did beg the question of whether or not these guys were going to be pushing things any further or not. Luckily, since then, on newer releases, we've seen a much more spacey element brought into the mix with a much more liberal use of synthesizers and non-traditional instruments to this genre. So The Harvest finally feels like a fresh, confident step into this new fusion of sludge and doom with space rock psychedelia on full display from the first moment of the album all the way through the end. There's a new level of consistency that these guys have managed to fuse into their songs. The intro track Oblak Magellana is a great tone-setting track that shows off their fine grasp of crafting soundscapes. This seamlessly leads into the first full-length song on the album, The Harvest, which hits with soaring walls of down-tuned, dissonant sound with a lot of really interesting synthesized noises that fill in the rest of the track. And this song is one of the longest on the album at about 9 minutes and 10 seconds, and over the duration of this song, Mammoth Weed Wizard Bastard slowly rolls out more and more effects over these chugging, repetitive riffs that become more and more dense as the track goes on. Around the 5-minute mark, this song lets more of the electronic parts take center stage for a really weird kind of breakdown segment that ends up working very well. This segment then leads into a much more plain, chugging build that switches off between the guitars as a main focus and these kind of chirping, whirring synthesizers. The Harvest ends and fades out into Interstellar Wrecking, which, as far as interlude tracks go, is pretty cool. It does have a little bit of a tendency to go on a bit long, but at the same time, I do like what they're trying to do here for the pacing on this album with these longer songs, each kind of sandwiched and padded out between these smaller interlude tracks. I don't think this is really the strongest interlude track here, but it is still very cool. It does remind me a lot of the intro music for like the first level of Metroid Prime. I think that soundtrack, that song is called the Frigate Orpheum theme, if I remember right. But still, I do think they do a very good job with their soundscape work, and they're very much flexing that here on this album. The track Logic Bomb starts off with a filthy riff that builds on itself, layered over vocals and synth work over top of an incredibly reverbed out verse section. This is one of the better songs here. This song really, to me, is the first point on the album where all of the creative and artistic maturation that they've been doing over the past few years really comes to a head and stacks on top of their original doom sound for one of the best songs on the album. Especially on this song's second half, which sees more and more synths piling onto this pillar of sound, which seemingly reaches ever upward to this next creative high. Betrayal is another synth-heavy interlude, this time with an almost dancey kind of beat. This song gives me like a very Radiohead kind of vibe, and if you've ever listened to like Amnesiac, you'll get what I'm talking about, but this interlude is probably my favorite here because it's just so bizarre for this album, yet manages to mesh so perfectly into this track listing. Altamira leads off on some huge sounding drum beats, almost like a call to war, which then dives into a fantastic guitar solo that takes a few pages right out of the Sleep playbook. That segment then leads into the main body of the track, which has some of the best vocal work on the album. Not that they're really trying like to belt much out here, but this song in particular does a lot with their singer, a lot more than a lot of the other tracks at least. These vocal parts come across as beautiful and haunting with these sort of longing deliveries that are reaching for a sound that I would almost call prayer-like. These passages lead into the end solo of the track, which, like I said before, reaches into some classic doom metal styles. These guys are really honestly doing Matt Pike better than Matt Pike did on his latest solo album with these songs. Let's Send These Bastards Whence They Came is the final interlude track, which I would say is a very close second to Betrayal. This track does elevate itself to an interesting position because of how much it really develops itself compared to the other interludes here, with this one I'd say being rightfully its own like full-length track, especially because it's about 4 minutes long anyway. But this song really gives the more space rock side of the band a ton of time to shine. In that way, this is probably one of the best moments that this band has had on any of their releases. Strontium dives back into these wells of distorted noise for a pretty solid hurrah for this album's tail end, end, this song is kind of the last, like, sludge-heavy song on the album, and the longest on the album as well. I do wish there was a bit more of a building intro for this song that kind of, like, helped blend it a bit with the last track, but they do pull it back a little bit for more of these dream-like vocal performances to dominate the mix with a wash of, like, wet effects permeating into every second of this song. This track definitely feels like a bit of a presentation for the other heavy songs on this album, kind of touching on all of the major points and throwing those ideas about as far as they can go. But for the end of this track, they do opt for a bit of a longer, more drawn-out finish that hits some more of this newer synth drone style, which meshes very well for the final moments of this track, weaving together these chaotic synth sounds and ascending guitar work for a really excellent climax. The final track, Moonrise, really sees Mammoth Weed Wizard Bastard delivering their most humbling and fantastical track yet, with a very alternative take on their sound. And man, I really adore this song. I think that they've done such good work here with the pacing of this album, allowing the moments like this one to really breathe and take on their own life. This is just such a high point to end on. And I'd love to see this avenue of their sound explored more, because they've just done such a good job on this track. It does make me wish that this style was maybe a little bit more present on this album, but if this is the direction they're moving anyway, then I'm thrilled. So The Harvest is a very sure-footed step into a unique, curated sound that Mammoth Weed Wizard Bastard have been slowly developing over the course of the last decade or so. I think their early work is great, but it's so nice to finally get a full album of very top-notch, distinctly written tracks that elevates this sound as a whole. I think this is one of their best efforts so far, and I am really excited to see what's next. The Harvest is a solid 8. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know what you thought of the album in the comments below, and if you liked this video, remember to subscribe and leave a like on the video. And if you'd like to support the channel further, check out my Reverb store and my Instagram. Links to those are in the description below. Thank you all so much again, and we'll see you on the flip side.